Alright, I guess we all set up. So, today we're going to study biology, biomolecules. I'll set up all the slides and everything. So, right now, I'm going to open the biology book and I'm going to read and explain what I study from there. Okay, biological molecules, biological elements, specification, reference 2.1.2. Learning outcomes. Demonstrate knowledge, understanding, and application of 1. The chemical elements that make a biological molecule. The key inorganic ions that are involved in biological processes. Monomers and polymers as biological molecules. Okay. The building blocks of life. In section 2, you looked at the cell and cellular components. However, these two are composed from smaller components called molecules. Molecules are built from even smaller components called atoms. In fact, atoms are built from yet smaller components including proton, neutron, electrons, which you will have learned about in your GSC science or chemistry studies. Knowledge of biochemistry is essential as it underpins a proper understanding of metabolic processes, structures, and limitations of biology. For example, the complex series reaction and molecule involved in cellular respiration. You do not need to be a chemist to understand basic biochemistry, as you will see in coming topics, but you do need to understand some essential chemical concepts and rules which will be explored in these chapters. Alright. So I want to go straight into the biomolecules. We're going to skip all the bonding parts. We're going to go directly and learn about the biomolecules themselves. Okay, biological molecules. Below is a summary of elements present in some of the key biological molecules. You will learn more about each of these classes of molecule in the coming topics of this chapter. First point, carbohydrate. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, usually in ratio CX H2OX. Lipids, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Proteins, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Nucleic acid, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus. Polymers. Biological molecules are often polymers. Polymers are long-chain molecules made up by the linking of multiple individual molecules called monomers. In a repeating pattern in carbohydrate, the monomers are sugars, saccharide, and in proteins, the monomers are amino acids. Let's keep the summary question. Let's go. Okay, first biomolecule we have is water. Water. The bonds of life. Learning outcome, demonstrate knowledge, understanding, and application of how hydrogen bonding occurs between water molecules. How the property of water relates to its role in living organisms. Okay, let's get into it. Atoms join together to form molecules by making bonds with each other. As you learn in previous topics, in ionic bonds, atoms give or receive electrons. They form negative or positive ions that are held together by the attraction of opposite charges. Covalent bonds occur when atoms share electrons. However, the negative electrons are not always shared equally by the atoms of different elements. In many covalent bonds, the electron will spend more time closer to one of the atoms than the other. The atom with the greater share of negative electron will be slightly negative compared with the other atom in the bond, which will therefore be slightly positive, as shown in figure 1. Molecules in which this happens are said to be polar. Exactly. They have regions of negative and regions of positivity. Okay. Oxygen and hydrogen are examples of elements that do not share electrons equally. In a covalent bond, oxygen always has a much greater share of electrons that makes it more negative. In an OH bond, many organic molecules contain oxygen and hydrogen bonds together in what are called hydroxyl groups. And so they are slightly polar. Water, H2O, is an example of such molecule. In fact, water contains two of these hydroxyl groups. Polar molecules, including water, interact with each other as the positive and negative region of the molecule attract to each other and form bonds called hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds are relatively weak interactions which break and reform between constantly moving water molecules. Although hydrogen bonds are only weak interactions, they occur in high number. Hydrogen bonding gives water its unique characteristics which are essential for life on this planet. These characteristics are explored further below. Alright, right now we're going to see the characteristic of water. But 1 second before that. Okay. Alright, welcome to anyone watching the stream. By the way, if you like biology, you like to see more lessons like reading about biology, talking about biology, don't hesitate to subscribe. Okay. Characteristic of water. Water has an unusual high boiling point. Water is a small molecule much lighter than the gaseous carbon dioxide or oxygen. Yet unlike oxygen and carbon dioxide, water is a liquid at room temperature. This is due to the hydrogen bonding between water molecules. It takes a lot of energy to increase the temperature of water and cause water to become gaseous, i.e. evaporate. When water freezes, it turns to ice. Most substances are more dense in the solid state than in the liquid state normally. But when water turns into ice, it becomes less dense. This is because hydrogen bonds form as water is cooled below 4 degrees Celsius. The hydrogen bonds fix the positions of the polar molecule slightly further apart than the average distance. In the liquid state, this produces a giant, rigid but open structure with every oxygen atom at the center of a tetrahedral arrangement of hydrogen atoms, resulting in a solid that is less dense than liquid water. For this reason, ice floats. Water therefore has cohesive properties. It moves as one mass because the molecules are attracted to each other. Cohesion, in bracket cohesion, like the attraction of water molecule between one another, the attraction of water molecules to each other is named cohesion. is in this way that plants are able to draw water up their roots, and how you are able to drink water through a straw. Water also have adhesive properties. This is where water molecules are attracted to other material. For example, when you wash your hands become white, the water doesn't run straight off. Water molecules are more strongly cohesive to each other than to air. This results in water having a skin or surface tension. Alright. Next point, water for life. Okay. The co the characteristic and properties of water are critical in sustaining life. In this way, water is unique. Some of the ways in which water is vital for life are summarized below. Because it is a polar molecule, water acts as a solvent in which many of the solutes in an organism can be dissolved. The cytosol of prokaryotes in bracket bacteria and eukaryotes is mainly water. Many solutes are also polar molecules, amino acid, proteins. Topic 3.8 Nucleic acid. Water acts as a medium for chemical reaction and also help transport dissolved compounds into and out of cells. Water makes a very efficient transport medium within living things. Cohesion between water molecules means that when water is transported through the body, molecules will stick together. Adhesion occurs between water molecules and other polar molecules surface. The effect of adhesion and cohesion result in water exhibition, capillary action. This is the process by which water can rise up a narrow tube against the force of gravity. Water acts as a coolant, helping to buffer temperature changes during chemical reaction in prokaryotes, in prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Because of the large amount of energy required to overcome hydrogen bond, maintaining constant temperature in cellular environment is important, as enzymes are often only active in a narrow temperature range. Many organisms, such as fish, live in water and cannot survive out of it. Water is stable, it doesn't change temperature or become a gas easily, therefore providing a constant environment. Because ice floats, it forms the surface bond and lakes rather than form the bottom up. This form an insulating layer above the water below. Aquatic organisms will not be able to survive freezing temperature if their entire habitat froze solid. Some organisms also inhabit the surface of water. Surface tension is strong enough to support small insects such as pond snake. Okay, next we'll have carbohydrates. But before we go to carbohydrates, let's watch some videos about water. Water as a biomolecule. Okay, let's look at water as a biomolecule. Properties of water, A-level structure. Okay, properties of water.
polar. It has one very electronegative oxygen that is always trying to keep the electrons closer to it than to the hydrogens it's bonded to. And this actually gives oxygen a slightly negative charge
Unfortunately, the
because of
volume
the
is not
electrons that are
coming
spending more
out.
time next to it, and it gives the
Why?
hydrogens a slightly positive charge.
So
Well, that means that other water molecules have
there
an
is no
easy time
volume,
bonding
unfortunately.
together. Why?
I don't
Well,
seem to
because
get
the
any
hydrogen
sound
of
from
one water
this.
molecule with its slightly positive charge can bond to another water molecule's oxygen with that slightly negative charge.
I don't know if you
These
guys are
bonds
getting
among the
any
water
sound from
molecules
this,
are hydrogen
because I
bonds.
don't.
And these are the very bonds that allow water to have many of the properties that we're about to talk about.
Yeah, you guys are actually
Have
getting
you
a
ever
sound.
looked at
But
a really
unfortunately
tall
for
tree
me,
and
I can't
wondered,
get
how does the
any
water get all the
sound.
way up there? I mean, it's got to go against gravity. Gravity? Well, in our plant video, we talk about the xylem. It's vessels within certain types of plants, like
Anyways, you
trees,
guys should
and
listen
these
and tell
vessels
me later.
transport water. But what's really neat about water is that it sticks to the xylem
I'm just
walls
trying to
in what
read
is known
the
as adhesion.
subtitle.
And this helps fight gravity. But water molecules, with their hydrogen bonding, they also bond to each other in something called cohesion.
So
It's
right now
almost
that
a
talking
beads
about
on a string
cohesion
kind
and
of fashion.
addition,
Water molecules
addition
evaporate
to
from a
the
leaf,
walls
and
of
then
the
the next water
plant,
molecule in line
and
is pulled
cohesion
up,
between water
upwards, and
molecules
so on.
help
This
help the plant to pull the water up to the leaves.
cohesion is really a big deal. Cohesion is also a reason that water striders, one of our favorite insect types, can skate on water. Cohesion contributes to the surface tension of water.
So it's the cohesion between the water molecule that mostly helps for the surface tension.
Water actually has quite a bit of surface tension compared to many other liquids. And it's not just water striders that can walk on water. There are a lot of insects, spiders, and even larger animals like reptiles and some birds
Yeah.
that have the ability to walk on water. So, to the Google for that. Now, with water being polar, it's also a very powerful solvent
Yeah,
for other
solvent, super
molecules.
solvent.
And that means that
Yeah, water
water
are
can
really
dissolve
good
many
solvents.
other molecules, especially
Dissolve
polar
many
molecules and
especially
ionic
polar
compounds.
molecules and ionic
Now, why does that matter? Well, this is really important because many of the processes that occur in organisms use water as a solvent. In our body system video, we talk about the function.
Yeah, like basically, water is one of the greatest solvent in this world because of its polarity. It helps dissolve a lot of substances. Without water, actually, we won't be able to dissolve most of what we have in our body or eat to like extract the nutrients from those.
Of kidneys, and you definitely couldn't have kidneys doing their function without water. Also, a main component for body fluids is water. I'll never forget when I was little, my father built us a
For the
pond.
build upon,
We had some goldfish in there, and I loved this pond. Well, in West Texas, where we're from, it can freeze in the winter. And one morning, I went outside, terrified to find that the top of the pond had frozen. And I thought our fish were goners. Only to find out that they were swimming and doing their fish activities under the ice layer. It's common for many substances to actually contract.
Yeah, so basically right now they're talking about the property of water that makes it in such a way that when water gets solid, it is actually less dense than its liquid form. Because most substances, when they're being solidified, they get denser than their liquid form. But actually water gets lighter because apparently when water gets below 4 degrees Celsius, the hydrogen bond between each water molecule actually get a little farther apart, creating more space in between the molecules, making it less denser.
When they freeze and to become more dense. But water expands when it freezes and becomes less dense in its frozen state, resulting in floating ice, where it can actually make this insulated surface layer that makes a difference for many organisms underneath. And this is due to the hydrogen bonds. See, at freezing level, the making and breaking of hydrogen bonds, which usually happens pretty often, it's not happening very much when frozen. And so the molecules, they're set into this lattice of hydrogen bonded molecules, just far enough apart that it's less dense in ice form than it is in water form. And that's going to be very important for all of that aquatic life. Speaking of temperature, water resists changing its temperature. It has what's called a high specific heat. Specific heat, it's a measurement of heat that's needed to be absorbed or lost for 1 gram of a substance to change its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. And that's why on the first day that school is out in the summer, it may be super hot outside, but the water could still be pretty cool. It's really good that water's like this for life. It's stabilizing for aquatic environment temperatures. And it also means that water can absorb a lot of heat in the summer without reaching as high of a temperature itself, which is useful when winter comes along, because then the water can release heat as it cools in the winter. This also impacts the environment. Now, still on the topic of temperature, consider evaporation. Many animals rely on evaporation to cool them. Think of water molecules. They are moving, but those that have more heat energy, they're moving the fastest. And they're the more likely molecules to make the phase change to gas.
I can get the sound of the video.
And these molecules, as they leave, their energy, their heat, is no longer on your skin.
So from what
By the way, all of this is not just animals,
they're talking about a specific heat capacity of water. The amount of energy needed to change to increase the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius is really high. So it makes water in such a way that water is a very good buffer to temperature. It easily it easily resists temperature changes. So when you're doing some exercises and your body gets hot, you release water to cool down your body. So that's what they're trying to explain about one of the properties of water. It has a high specific heat capacity, helping it to buffer temperature.
Evaporative cooling to aid them in hot temperatures. Excessive high temperatures can be very dangerous for many different processes in both plants and animals. It can be damaging to the enzymes involved in those processes. So that evaporative cooling is very important. Well, we went through a lot of features of water. Definitely something to consider next time you encounter it, which, based on how much we depend on water, will likely be soon. Well, that's it for the Amoeba Sisters, and we remind you to stay curious.
So, for today, I will have loved to do more for today, but unfortunately, I would have loved to do more for today, but unfortunately I can't get the sound of the videos, so I'll need to fix that issue. I'll need to address that issue. I think I need to buy a headset because I've connected my mic to the machine, so I think because of that it's preventing the sound from coming out from the machine. So if you like the video so far, like, subscribe, drop a comment.
I want you to think for a moment about your favorite food. Peace. What is it? We all have different food preferences, but food is a